Some huge boxing news now, and we can announce the British rivals Carl Frampton and Scott Quigg will finally face each other in February. A unification fight for IBF and WBA super bantamweight title.
I've been after this guy for about 4 years now. When he was British champion, I wanted to fight him. It never materialised, but it's done. I can't wait to get going now. I'm going to be at my best. I'm going to put everything in this training camp, and whatever it takes to win, I'm going to do it.
Personally, I don't have any dislike to Carl, but this is boxing, this is a business, and we're getting the ring me on the 27th pound to take his head off.
The reason this fight is so big is because it's got everything from top to bottom. Two great fighters, and this is a huge fight, not just here, but in world boxing. Everybody's going to be talking about this fight.
The fighting pride of Belfast, Northern Ireland, Floyd, the Jackal. The undefeated WBA super bantamweight champion of the world.
Good morning everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Next Big Fight podcast. With me this morning I've got James and Ryan. How are you doing, guys?
How you doing, mate? You alright? Yeah, I'm okay, well.
Good stuff, good stuff. Right, fight week is nearly upon us. Frampton Quigg next Saturday. Massive fight. We'll start with you, James. How have you found the build-up and Sky's coverage so far?
Yeah, it's been good, hasn't it? I mean, we've just had the gloves are off recently, and I like the whole gloves are off where they come face to face. I mean, you had some interesting ones, don't you? Like Cleverly Bellew, and some are not so interesting, but he looked very composed in it, didn't he? Frampton and Quigg came across as deluded to me.
Well, it's interesting you talk about the gloves are off and some of them not being as genuine. Cleverly Bellew, for example, I thought that was completely fabricated, the beef that they have. Ryan, do you think Quigg and Frampton, there's a lot more needle there, would you say?
Yeah, it's funny, you just said about, James, you just said about Frampton look composed. I've always been a Frampton fan. I've been over to Belfast quite a few times, but I actually thought that Quigg rattled him a little bit. There was a few things that were said that sort of I personally thought made Frampton look stupid. Like, a lot can be made of the gloves are off. But, people will say, they won round one. You heard it with the Froch and Groves. But I generally think that Quigg got to him a little bit.
Remember that?
with the
Well, we can all do a little bit of push and pull. Is that what you're referring to?
That's the one right there.
Oh, I think Frank had them there. He did have them. Come on,
see. I thought he made the comment about the sparring, and then he didn't admit to being knocked out, but then he went on to tell him about other stories, which I thought was a bit strange. Then when Frampton made the comment about the £75,000 fight, when they were both in their earlier days, and then Quigg returned and said to him, "Why have you never made us an offer?" And Frampton, I thought, looked a little bit stupid and sitting there saying, "I don't know."
Well, it was interesting because it was childish at times. Quigg talking about gym stories and sparring stories, and I agree with you, Ryan. I think he got to him then because Frampton did look a little bit rattled. If I was Frampton, I would have retaliated and responded to, well, what about that cringe moment when you were videoed as part of the ring walk walking from your bedroom to the arena? I mean, that would have stumped him, surely.
Yeah.
Can I just add a little bit about Quigg, though? I mean, the things that I was talking about Quigg being deluded, he seems to think he's got a bigger following than Frampton, and he thinks he's a better boxer. That was the deluded part I was pointing to, because I was thinking, well,
is it deluded or is it to get at Frampton though? Because everyone
I think it's rattled him a little bit. With Quigg, right? I'm looking at him and I don't know if he's trying to wind him up or he's actually just that deluded and that thing. I'm not sure.
What I
don't know what you think.
Well, I want to know how many times we're going to hear this week that he's dedicated to it and no one trains as hard as he does.
Yeah. I mean, two points there. I think, firstly, I think after watching the gloves are off, that Quigg, and this may sound patronising and condescending, is smarter than everyone thinks he is. Yes, he isn't as articulate as Frampton, but I think he is trying to get to him when he talks about him having more fans. I think he knows full well that he doesn't have the same following as Frampton, and he's trying to get under Frampton's Quigg. Frampton's dined on the fact that he's the bigger name, the A-side as he likes to call it. So I think he is genuinely trying to get under Frampton's skin.
I like that. I like the whole thing about the belts, like that he said, "Oh, we won't even have the WBA belt with me if we win," because we all know that situation, don't we?
Well, I mean, Eddie's recently come out and said that the belts really don't mean that much after the fight, because the winner has to face Rigondeaux, which is a separate subject altogether, but this is about this fight, and the indication is that if it's a good fight, a competitive fight, we're going to see a rematch.
Yeah, I've heard that the same thing there, but I'd like to see one of them go in with Rigondeaux. I mean, the time's right. If you're going to go in with him, go in with him now. When was the last time he had a fight that was meaningful? And that was, 3 years ago. He's Asian.
Well, he's got enough on his hands with Jazza Dickens, but as I said, we will come on to that a bit later on. Ryan, let's talk trainers. Now, a lot has been made of the rivalry between Shane McGuigan and Joe Gallagher. Who do you think's had the upper hand in the build-up to this fight?
To be honest with you, I think the trainers are irrelevant. At the end of the day, it's down to the fighters and the fight's focus. I've seen a few interviews with both people.
You sound like a politician there, Ryan. We know that the trainers have got a lot to do with this fight. Joe Gallagher, to his credit, is Ring Magazine Trainer of the Year. Shane McGuigan's guided and steered Frampton's success over the last 6 years. So who's going to have more influence on this fight, Ryan?
I generally think the trainers, it's down to what they do in the corners. It's nothing to do with the build-up or anything like that. You know, you talk about the upper hand in that, but it's generally down to what they say to their fighters and you know, what happens on the night. So, you know, regardless, you know, that's the same.
Well, I mean, just
George Groves and
sorry, I was going to say exactly the same thing, but go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say with the George Groves and the Paddy Fitzpatrick thing, you know, George Groves can put blame in the corner all he wants about not being told this and that, but ultimately he's the one in the ring. He's the one that's, you know, there one-on-one with someone else, and, you know, when it comes down to it, the hard work's done in the gym, and of course the corner's there to tell them what to do round by round. But
I was going to ask this, does the corner really have that big burden on the fight? I mean, unless you like to say Angelo Dundee or something like that, do they have a big burden?
Well, you say that, James, and you're...
doesn't it?
Well, absolutely, and Ryan almost answered that point with reference to George Groves. George Groves blamed the defeat to Badu Jack solely at the door of Paddy Fitzpatrick, saying that the instructions he kept receiving when he returned to the ring apron round after round were wrong, and that if he was given the right instructions, potentially could have won the fight.
No, you know what you're doing in the ring. You know what you're doing in the ring. You can't be blaming the trainer. You know what you've got to do. It's all his own fault.
You look at someone like Eubank Jr., he's someone that probably doesn't listen that well in the corner. That's obviously been proved, you know, in the Saunders fight. So it's different character, I think, different, you know, value to having the trainer in corner. Of course, the trainer is important for the build-up to the fight and the camp, but when it comes to the night, I think sometimes, you know, emotions get the better of some fighters. You know, it really is kind of, I wouldn't say irrelevant, but it's down to the two fighters that are going to be in the ring at the weekend.
Well, absolutely. I mean,
can they adapt, isn't it? Can the fighters actually adapt, and some fighters can't?
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. It's the biggest fight of both of their careers. It's new territory for both of them, headlining such a massive box office fight. You're going to need your trainer. You're going to need a calming influence, and it will be interesting to see who has more of an influence, Joe Gallagher or Shane McGuigan? Now, let's talk tactics. We put up a poll the other day about how this fight can be won, and I think the consensus is that if Quigg's going to win, he's going to win by knockout. If Frampton's going to win, he's going to win on points. We'll come to you first, Ryan. How do you see the fight panning out?
I don't think it's going to end in a knockout. I think it's going to be a Frampton win, but he can't start slow like he did in his last fight. He needs to be in there level-headed. I think what Frampton does well for me is he fights well front foot and back foot. He looks good going in with punches, and he also looks good going out. And for scoring judges, that's always good. And in his last fight, that's where he picked up his points after he got knocked down. He was good all round. People also talk about, I've seen obviously a lot of tweets and stuff. People talk about that last performance by Frampton like it was really bad. Now, okay, the opponent isn't on the same level as Quigg, but he did get rocked, and I don't think he got rocked that badly, but he got rocked.
I think there were flash knockdowns, to be fair.
Yeah, the second one he was actually weaving down, and as he got hit on the way as he was weaving. So, but I look at it that Frampton actually did well to come back from that, in foreign territory and go on to win the fight quite convincingly.
Add to that, it was his first appearance in America after signing to Al Heyman. There was a lot of pressure on him, and he did well. James, what about yourself? Ryan's talked about it not going, it not ending in a knockout and a Frampton points victory. How do you see the fight panning out?
I see it in two different ways. I see it in the way you're looking at it for Frampton, what Frampton needs to do to win and what Quigg needs to do to win. What Frampton needs to do to win is not make the same mistakes he made in the last fight, and his mistakes, for me, were similar to what Khan makes, but he loads up too much and he leaves himself open to the counter, and that's what he was doing in the fight. But I agree with Ryan, he's good on the front foot, good on the back foot, going with the combinations, has much the better skills, and he can. I think he will run out winning on points. I'm not Quigg's side of it. And if you look at Quigg's side of it, what he needs to do is he needs to get inside. He needs to get inside because I'm questionable about Frampton's skills on the inside, and he needs to manhandle Frampton from the off, and he needs to show him he is the stronger man.
Well, absolutely, and playing devil's advocate here and sort of champing Quigg's corner, he's got a lot of skills at his end. I mean, he's got incredible work rate. As he says himself, he trains very hard, and he's got very good punching power, as he showed against Kiko Martinez. So, is the tactic from Quigg's end to really put it on him, as you said, James, and just start like a bull and try and sort of close the show early on?
Yeah, you can't start the fight like he did against Salinas. If he starts like that, where he was already about 5-6 down after 5-6 rounds, he can't win the fight, because that's where he's going to open up and make mistakes. He needs to be on him straight away, and he needs to get inside and show him that he's the stronger man. Because, like I said, I'm questionable about Frampton on the inside, but I would say Frampton's more adaptable than Quigg. I think Quigg's very one-dimensional. You can only fight one way.
Is that fair, Ryan? Do you think Quigg can adapt? I mean, he hasn't lost any fights. He's just got the one slight blemish on his record with a draw. Can Quigg adapt? Can he box on the back foot, for example?
He's got 2 draws on his record, hasn't he? I think, because I see a comment.
He's got 2.
Yeah, I see a comment the other day which I kind of agreed with. I think he can adapt. I just don't think he can adapt as well as Frampton can. I think Frampton's got a lot more to his game. I've got nothing against Scott Quigg. I just prefer Frampton as the better all-round fighter. Totally agree with questionable inside skills. The ability to make sure that doesn't happen. Keep coming in and out. People also talk about Scott Quigg and his power. And I see this was someone's tweet on Twitter the other day. About how many punches it actually took him. Okay, he got him out in round 2, but there was about 19 punches to actually take Martinez down. And okay, he was covered up, but if there was some real power there. You know, it wasn't a one-punch knockout. Nothing, you know, we spoke about it last week as well. Nothing can be taken from, you know, Quigg knocking out Martinez, and Frampton didn't do it till later on. You know, Styles.
Yeah, because you could spin that, couldn't you, Ryan? You could spin that and just say, well, Salinas, he couldn't take him out, and he ended up getting a draw. And he was beaten twice since. He's been knocked out twice in his last 3 fights.
Yeah, absolutely.
He could spin it in so many different ways. We're looking at the last fight too much, I think. If you look at it overall, Frampton's the better fighter.
Can I also say as well, I think Sky Sports as well, when you talk about the build-up to this fight, I don't know if you've watched a few of the different like interviews on Sky Sports News and that, but it's almost like Sky Sports are trying to like wind Carl Frampton up. Like, I see some of the comments they were making the other day, and it was almost like a matchroom dig. It's almost like they're backing their fighter in Scott Quigg, you know, obviously from the matchroom part of the deal.
Yeah. Although I think, Ryan, I think that's inevitable. They're going to promote their man. Their man is the matchroom fighter, Quigg. But yeah, I can see that needle.
Well.
Sorry, James, you were saying, mate?
With that needle with Eddie as well, with Frampton, with them leaving him and going to Frank for a bit, and then now with Al Heyman, obviously. Yeah, they're going to back their man, aren't they? They're going to back Quigg.
Well, yeah, there are some hilarious memes, and I think they're called GIFs. There's one tweeter in particular who goes by the name of Stan Lowles, who's put together some hilarious Eddie Hearn knock-ups where one of them, he's obviously with Frampton, saying that Frampton's the next best thing since sliced bread, and then it goes to promoting Quigg and saying exactly the same, but for Quigg. Before we move on to the next topic, Ryan, I'm going to pass it over to you. We've had a competition with 2 winners, but let's read out some tweets from some of the fight fans.
Right, so we've got Dan O'Connor, which is at Doc Boxing. We basically asked the question about who's going to win and how and why. So Dan says, Frampton, better boxer, more intelligent, can adapt. Quigg's power is being overrated. How many punches to take out Martinez? That was the actual tweet I was referring to earlier. You've got Tomo Weehawk, at Tomo Weehawk. Frampton, more versatile and called to box. And too cool to box Quigg for 4 years. They think they saw a Frampton glitch in America. Silly men. So someone's actually commented to that saying, so that wasn't a glitch in the States. In which case he actually replied, you want to talk about glitches, let's talk about 2 draws, which I thought was quite a funny comment.
Well, it's true. I mean, Frampton's...
Then someone said Quigg, at AJ Burrows 1997, Quigg, he's the bigger guy, punches extremely hard, and Frampton is vulnerable, as we saw in his last bout. Quigg wins easily. And the next one, Frampton wins. I think he dictates the early pace, boxing smart, and stops a bamboozled Quigg from round 9 onwards. That's from Peter Galley, 1983. And then one more. If Frampton starts slow like he did against Gonzalez, Quigg blasts him out early. If not, Frampton wide unanimous decision, staying at range. And that's at CBG Dan.
Excellent. Ryan, thank you for that. And we'll be announcing 2 competition winners at the end of the show. Go for it, James.
Can I just have one bit? Right, I'm going to be there on next Saturday with that, and I'm going to be there with all the next big fight crew and that. I'm going to be sitting next to Josh Cantor, so I can't wait for that, for this fight next week. Well, I don't think you're going, are you, boys?
No, I'm not going. Ryan, are you DJing somewhere?
I'm in Spain.
I'm also with our fellow podcast member who's not here today, Dan Frost.
Okay, why? What happened to Dan? Is it? Oh, sorry. I thought you meant he'd gone to a better place.
He'll be there as well. He's going to be there for the Frampton Quigg fight. We're going to be meeting up and that.
Okay, excellent. Right, let's...
AKA Mayweather beats AJ.
Well, exactly. Dan has been removed from the panel after that comment last week where we were talking about potential opponents for AJ, and he threw Mayweather's hat into the ring. Right, talking about AJ and our next topic of discussion, AJ versus Charles Martin's been announced officially. We've talked about it last week. They came head-to-head at the press conference. Before we talk about the head-to-head, let's talk about the ticket fiasco, which has been a hot topic all week and even this morning. So we'll start with you, James. Now, before I give you the floor, just tell us a little bit about your sort of experience in getting the tickets and whether you managed to get one in the end.
My experience? Nightmare. Absolute nightmare for anyone trying to get tickets for this fight. I mean, you could have just scrapped the general sale. There was no point of even attempting that because I don't know how many they put for general sale, but it was sold out in 2 minutes and I wasn't allowed to get any. If you wanted tickets, you should have went straight to StubHub because AJ got all his over. And I ended up getting one ticket. That's all I ended up getting, so looks like I'm going to fight on my own.
Oh, excellent. Well, you paid, was it £80 for your ticket?
Oh yeah, sorry, paid £80.
And how much was the booking fee?
£15 for the service fee.
Okay, £15. And did you feel...
How would you... That was £15, so
perfect.
I can imagine what it was for the tickets that were more expensive, say the 100s, 150s, 200s.
Okay, so you paid £80 for your ticket and then £15 for the service. How would you rate the service?
Not 15 quid worth.
Not 15.
Not worth 15 quid, but is it ever worth 15 quid?
Okay, perfect.
I can't even download the tickets till week of the fight.
Well, it's interesting. We were having this conversation with Eddie Hearn on Twitter this morning, or well, on Sunday morning, depending on when you're listening to us. And he said that each fighter gets their own allocation, and of course, a lot of people sell face value tickets on StubHub. Others put them up for what they feel they are worth. No different to any other sporting event. Now, my personal experience is I tried to get tickets on the O2 Priority on the Thursday, I think it was. Couldn't get a single ticket. Tried again through the Fight Pass. Again, couldn't get a ticket. And then the last opportunity was the general sale. Again, couldn't get a ticket because apparently they sold out in 90 seconds. So, Ryan, is this a wider issue with sporting tickets, or are we just limiting it to AJ and Eddie Hearn's events?
I was actually talking to James earlier on today, and you know, whilst I don't like it, it is what it is. There's not a lot you can really do about it. At the end of the day, AJ is a massive pull. People are going to want the tickets, and you know, the way they're sold is the way they're sold, and you know, whether we agree with it or not, that's how it is. You know, I don't want to go off of the subject of boxing too much, but you know, I'm a massive West Ham fan. If I wanted to go to the last game of the season,
I'm sorry to hear that, Ryan.
It would cost me a fortune. Their last game at Upton Park. You know, it's the equivalent of a big fight. It's a big event. It'd be hard to get hold of a ticket. If you wanted to go and see your team play at Wembley, it would be expensive. You probably wouldn't be able to get it on the general sale. Okay, there's a little bit more made available at 40,000 seats when you go to see your team at Wembley, but it is what it is. You know, but whether I agree with it, no. But it depends how much of a boxing fanatic you are.
And how much you're willing to spend.
Yeah, exactly, you know.
Could I just ask this, should they have looked for a bigger venue?
Well, it's interesting you should say that, James, because as Ryan was talking, I kept thinking about this June the 4th date that Hearn was banging on about with regards to Khan versus Brook. He had to release that date back to Wembley, but in hindsight, if he had known that the Charles Martin fight would have been on the table, James, should he have potentially gone for Wembley for this fight?
You know what, I think I might have done it. I think if he really had a good undercard, and he put Selby in there, he put the Gale on there, he could have done it if he had a good undercard, because I just can't believe the support AJ's got already in this country if you consider what he's actually...
He had something like 8,000 retweets within like a few minutes when he actually announced his fight. Like, that amount of Twitter interaction.
I mean, we were all counting down to 6 o'clock, weren't we, for him to announce that fight. And that's us, know what I mean? Everyone was counting down.
Absolutely, I had an alarm on my phone and everything. But I think we have, and a lot of boxing fans have underestimated almost the cult following that AJ has, which you're alluding to there, Ryan. Now, it's 80,000, but O2 has a capacity of sort of 16,000, 17,000. Now, surely with AJ's growing following, he could have achieved that with Wembley.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's hard to tell we don't know how many tickets were put on that general sale and etc. But you know, I think he could have done a decent stadium. It wouldn't necessarily have to be Wembley. It could have been Upton Park or something like that. You know, before they demolish it, or you know, any of the places in any of the stadiums in London. I I don't know whether Wembley would be a little bit too big on this occasion, and it would be a little bit of a. Can you imagine the uproar from the more hardcore boxing fans that AJ does Wembley?
Well, the thing is, Eddie Hearn, again, referring to the Twitter conversations we were having this morning, his words were words to the effect of, if I kept thinking about the hardcore following, I would lead a very unhappy life. Now, you're not going to exactly true that indeed. You're not going to appease all of the fans, and ultimately, the hardcore fans do not account for a significant percentage of boxing fans. Ultimately, the guys that go to the Wembley events, the guys that go to the Matchroom events, are largely, and I don't like to use this term, casual fans. So surely if the event was promoted correctly, and Hearn knows all about promotion, it could actually fill Wembley Stadium, James.
Yeah, I reckon it could have filled it, to be honest with you. I mean, since we've spoken about Charles Martin last week, I've actually got to see some footage of the guy. I've got to admit.
So you've actually done some research for a change, James.
Sorry?
So you've actually done some research for a change, James.
First time on this show, I've actually done a bit of research.
Without having to wing it.
No,
we're very proud of you.
A little bit. And just... I mean, it is for the world title. I've got to give AJ all the credit in the world. He's gone for the world title, 16th fight. You know what I mean? After that, he's going to be open to fighting all the top guys. So you've got to give him his credit. He's not moving him slowly along like he did with Calbrew. He's putting him right there in the firing line.
I think maybe because of the title that he's fighting for is the reason that it wouldn't do Wembley. I mean, it is a world title, but obviously the IBF isn't classed as a proper title in terms of the world title.
I think that's a bit unfair. IBF, we're not talking about the IBO or even the WBO. I think the IBF is
a world champion, but
is a recognised federation, and it is an official belt.
I was going to say, do you think all this, and I was talking about this the other day on the page, a lot of people don't think it's going to happen, but I think all this is geared towards AJ fighting David Hay at some point.
Yeah, I think next year.
And I think that's what all this is geared
well, the event becomes that much more credible if there's a world title on the line. So 2 Brits fighting for a world title at Wembley, the fight sells itself. Now, let's move on to the next topic because we're running out of time. Sturm beat Chudanov last night in a highly controversial points win. We'll come to you first, James. Was it a robbery or was it a justified win for Sturm?
Yeah, it was definitely a robbery. I mean, Sturm won about 4 rounds or something like that. It's just, with Sturm, he's very accurate with his punches, and he was landing the cleanest shot, but his work rate is so poor.
Well, it's interesting you should say that, James. Sorry to interrupt. He is, I noticed exactly the same thing, and it's a sort of trend in his last few fights. I don't know if it's come with age, but he's very economical with his punches. Doesn't throw a lot, but he's phenomenally accurate. But go on.
Yeah, that is true. He is really accurate with his punches, but he only works like 30, 45 seconds of a round. Chudanov, on the other hand, was on him constantly. He may not have been landing the cleaner punches, but he was putting all the work in. And the later rounds, from like 10 to 12, that's where he won the fight, because he was on him and he was catching him quite a bit because his arms were dropping at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a typical German fight.
Well, it makes the Tyson Fury victory that much sweeter because there is the feeling, the understanding that if you go to Germany, you have to pin the guy to the canvas to win. So it makes it even more sweet that Tyson Fury not only won in Germany, but he won a unanimous decision. Now, Sturm is now the WBA title holder. Ryan, we put up a poll this morning asking everyone to vote on which of the Brits they would most like to see Sturm face. We gave them the options of Paul Smith, James DeGale, George Groves. Who would you like to see Sturm face next of the Brits?
And any of the above, really, but I wouldn't really want it to be in Germany.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Where would you like to see it? At the Bowling Ground?
Bowling, yeah, just on the same night as the last day of the season. That would top it off nicely, that would.
Okay. That's the 7th reference to West Ham there. But of the British fighters there, and I forgot to mention James DeGale, of course. So you've got James DeGale, George Groves, Martin Murray, and Paul Smith. Who would you like to see him fight out of those? And who do you think is more realistic as a matchup?
Yeah, I'll go with George, you know. I think George just got another shot in him, but I can see this tipping into a trilogy, can't you? They were shooting off winning the first fight to stay and winning the second. They're going to have a trilogy there, but after that's finished, yeah, George should be aiming for one of these guys, because he could beat either of them. We just got to see, can he step it back up to that level he used to do before he was COVID?
Yeah.
He always makes it onto this show somehow. I don't know how.
Yeah.
I had to put that in for you, boys.
James, again, not a massive George Groves fan, but talking about George Groves, he's backed by a German-based promoter in the Sauerlands. Now, George, as we know, has been pushing, or was pushing for the WBC not to have the fight that Smith is fighting as a final eliminator for Badou Jack's title. Could George Groves now look at this as a realistic fight, and could he be willing to travel to Germany, Ryan?
I don't think anyone wants to travel to Germany, but if the fight was an opportunity for him, then I think maybe he would take it. But I still think George Groves needs to have another 2-3 more fights. Get back into winning ways, get his confidence back. He acts like he's confident, but previous history can't be good for your mentality. Don't care what kind of person you are.
So, are you suggesting that his flaw in the past has been his arrogance, and maybe he should take out a leaf out of AJ's book and be a little bit more humble?
Yeah, because when he
hashtag stay humble, of course.
He should be like Bill. When George Groves, was coming up, he was a young fella, and when I remember the Gonzalez fight against Frampton, and they were saying that when he knocked him down in the first cut round, they're saying, when someone's young, they'll never be classed as the opposition. They're just used to winning, and they just keep going for it. And that's very much the same with a lot of fighters. And George Groves had that. He had that winning mentality. That's why he was cocksure of himself against Froch, and he went into that fight, and he gave a fantastic account of himself, and then things went wrong. So he needs to make sure that he gets back into the winning ways, gets back into that mentality that he can't be beaten. Hopefully this partnership with McGuigan is going to be a good one, and then hopefully we can see him as a world title holder one day, because he's certainly one of my favourite boxers, and despite the few things that he did to annoy us, it'd be good to see him as a world champion.
Absolutely.
I would just add one little thing to that as well. He's going on about Callum getting the final eliminator. You need to do his talking in the ring, for one.
Yeah.
And another one, he needs to avoid Callum, because it's just not a good matchup for me, Callum and Groves.
He's a big super middleweight, Callum.
And too strong. He's more a light heavyweight, isn't he?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just don't.
Well, Callum's got his final eliminator, and I think what's clear to everyone is that Hearn wants to match him up against Badou Jack, which is going to be a great fight. Now, we'll come on to our final topic, which is the Manny Pacquiao debacle. Manny Pacquiao came out with some very highly controversial and offensive comments this week, where he likened gays to animals. As a result, he's been dropped by Nike, a 9-year commercial relationship. We'll start with you, James. Whilst none of us agree and condone his comments, have they been taken out of context? And do you think Nike and other sponsors were right in pulling the plug on Pacquiao?
Right, you're a well-known sportsman and you know the rules. I'll just say that, you know the rules. You can't be, if you've got this opinion, that's your opinion. But don't go and do an interview and actually say these things. You can't, you're a well-known sportsman, you've got these big contracts with Nike, I don't know who else he's with, and they were right to drop him, because you can't have these sorts of opinions this day and age, because it's not right, is it?
Yeah. What about yourself, Ryan? What did you think of, firstly, the comments, and secondly, Nike pulling the plug on a 9-year deal?
It's exactly the same. If you've got opinions, then that's fair enough. And, you know, a lot of the time I'll say you can have your opinion, but when it comes down to professionalism, it's the same for everyone. It's the same for me. It's the same probably for both of you. If you wrote something on Twitter that was, you know, anything controversial, there's a good chance that your employer, if they found out about it, might take disciplinary action against you or something like that. You know, Nike is a massive, massive name, and they can't be looped with someone that goes and makes comments like that, because branding and, you know, for income purposes, you know, if people boycotted Nike and to not buy stuff from them because of that comment that Manny Pacquiao made, I know it sounds a bit extreme, but if that's sales they're going to lose, then it's much better for them to not sponsor someone and pay to have someone as their figure than to lose sales. He's a bit of an idiot. Well, he's very much an idiot, and you know, I think he's done a bit of damage to his credibility as a boxer as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I echo those sentiments. We are very quickly running out of time, so I think we've only got time left to announce the competition winners for the Frampton Quigg posters. So I'll pass matters over to Ryan, and he'll read out the winners.
All right, so we did 2 competitions to win a poster, an art print, which is a copy of the original art that Patrick J. Killian done. I'll stick the link up later as well. You can buy them; they're just £60. We're also doing 2 more competitions this week as well, so look out for those. The first winner to the first competition, bear with me, is at Davy Boland from Dublin. So congratulations, mate. You've won the first poster.
Congratulations.
And the second one is Jimmy Mitchell, which is at Jim Slip 1D. So both those guys won the competition.
Your cousin?
Is that your cousin, is it? No.
James, we were going to have to edit the interview there. So those are the 2 competition winners, and thank you everyone for your tweets and for entering. We'll be in contact with the competition winners to arrange for the prizes to be delivered. And thank you everyone for listening. We will be back next Sunday with another edition of Next Big Fight Podcast. Thank you very much for listening.